This is a fan-generated show. If you'd like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our new Rumble channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm thrilled to announce the release of my new book, Obama's True Legacy: How He Transformed America. There's a reason why Mike Huckabee calls it a ferocious and chilling read. Order it now at Amazon.com or at FrontPageMag.com.
Thank you for joining the Glazov Gang. I'm Michael Lauber, sitting in today for Jamie Glazov. Before we get started, I do want to remind you this is a fan-generated program. We rely on the generosity and the donations from viewers like you. The best way to contribute and make this show possible is by going to jamieglazov.com. There you can make a contribution and help us to keep bringing you the news the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear. Now, before I bring on our guest tonight, you're probably going to recognize him. He's done a lot in the battle for free and fair elections, restoring integrity and trust in our system. The battle to restore handwritten paper ballots, hand-counted, I should say, paper ballots, and remove these machines. But right now, he's under attack. So I want to present to you Colonel Conrad Reynolds. Colonel Reynolds, I want to thank you for joining us here on the Glazov Gang. And if you could, kind of give our audience a little bit of background, and then I want to dig right into what's happening to you now.
Well, the background is that I was recently arrested by the Attorney General of the state of Arkansas. Basically, it is because I am the face of paper ballots here. We have worked hard over the last 3 years, myself and Will Huff, just the two of us, but we have pushed hard to try to change the laws in our state in order to be able to get hand-marked, hand-counted paper ballots and get rid of machines. The establishment doesn't like it. They don't want us to do that. And they have fought us at every juncture. Everything that we've tried to do, they have put the full force and weight of the Arkansas government against us to silence us. And this is the pinnacle. This is the one person they had to get in order to try to stop our movement. And when you hear the details, and you're going to find out what they've charged me with, it is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's clear what it is. And I know you remember the guy standing in front of the big fire on, I think it was CNN, and when they had the Black Lives Matter, and he said it's a peaceful. Everybody saw it's not peaceful. And that's what people are seeing now. When they go, oh, well, this is a legitimate arrest. It's not. It is completely politically motivated in a solid red state. That's what makes it unique. We're pulling back the curtain on what goes on, even in a solid red state, when they try to stop the people, the grassroots, from getting what they want.
Yes, the fiery but mostly peaceful protests, one of my favorite moments in journalism history. But yeah, you're exactly right. You have a Republican governor, allegedly. It appears to be a solid red state, but that's exactly who's going after you right now is her little lapdog, Sarah Huckabee Sanders' lapdog, her AG, again, targeting you, even though the people of Arkansas clearly want to return to hand-counted paper ballots, so there's some accountability, and get away from these corrupt machines that even if you want to pretend the elections aren't being stolen, you still can't argue that there's not a possibility with the electronic machines.
We say we have our own Letitia James here. It's called Letitia James Griffin, because he is doing exactly what she did in New York. You take a non-law really and try to twist it to try to get at the people you don't like or that you want to shut up. That's exactly what we have right here going on right now. And you talked about the number of people. Let me give people in your audience an idea. 63% of the people in the state of Arkansas do not want voting machines. They're computers, actually. They don't want voting computers. They want hand-marked paper ballots. 73% of the Republicans in our state. It's the same way. That was a Rasmussen poll that they did in October of 2023. We know exactly what people want in our state. And it's almost across the nation, by the way. Those numbers are almost exact wherever you go. But you cannot find one representative in my state, not one House member, not one Senate member, not one person in any of the constitutional offices are for paper ballots. They're all against it, every one of them. So who are they representing? It's not the people. If it were the people, there would be at least 63% of the legislature for it, but they're not. And I'm just going to tell you, I've had several legislators that call me. They're scared to death. And they go, look, we agree with you. We agree that the election commissioners, and we can talk about that in a minute, in Searcy County were mistreated, sorely mistreated. They were attacked, but we can't say anything because if we do, we're not going to get committees. We're going to get primaried, and we're not going to have any authority. So we really can't come out and do anything. And I said, well, you know what? If you don't come out, you're cowards. Really, you're cowards because you got to stand up, and you got to be willing to do whatever it takes in order to make sure that our voice is heard. And that's what I'm trying to do. And that's why they can't stand me, because they really can't come after me. And so they've taken this and twisted it to make it look like I've done something wrong or illegal. And the little section of law that they're trying to get me with is really no more than being close to a door, doing exit polling. And what are they trying to do? They're trying to prosecute me that on a law that no one in the history of Arkansas has ever been prosecuted on, ever. I'm the only one. But you know what the penalty is though? I can never run for elected office in my life if I'm convicted.
Well, that's the real goal.
I'll never be able to. That is what they're trying to do. And so everybody ought to be outraged, and they rightly are. And I think that they have, Letitia James Griffin has figured out, and Sarah Huckabee have figured out that this is a problem. They stepped in it. They kicked a hornet's nest, and the people want paper ballots. They want to know that their vote counted. They don't trust these machines. I don't care how many times you tell them it's good, they're not. And people understand that, but they don't want to listen. And so we learned a long time ago that it was going to be really, really difficult to push it at the state level. In fact, we told President Trump, I told him in February, that we cannot push strings from the bottom. We have to pull them from the top. And that's why we have to have the executive order. And we have to have more than that. The executive order he put out, they're not even listening to it. Even in our own state, they're not preparing to get rid of our machines, which use barcodes, which explicitly the president said can't be used. They don't care. Yeah. They're going to use them anyway.
No, I mean, that's what's insane. Like, this seems like a clear victory. If 63% of the population of the state want to eliminate the machines and go to paper ballots, this seems like a very easy victory, something that could just sail through the House and Senate there. Sarah Huckabee Sanders could sign it and everybody would be happy. It'd be an easy win and you'd get a lot of popular support. So something bigger is clearly going on here. Now, you mentioned the statute that they're going after you with. So it is normal. I mean, here, Channel 7 News, they're out in front of polling locations every time we have election. They're asking, who did you vote for? Why did you vote this way on this on this issue? So first of all, they're allowed to be as close to the door as they want to be. They're not campaigning for anyone or handing out pamphlets or other information. I know that, like, when I was younger, when I lived on the other side of the city and had to vote at the children's courts, or whatever it's called, family courts, they would stand right in front of the doors because that way they were under an awning and protected from the rain and the weather. Whereas everybody that was out there to hand out information on their candidate or their party, they're on the other side of the parking lot, past the bushes, well over 100 feet from the door as the law requires. But the people taking the surveys were right by there. So that's exactly what you were doing. You weren't harassing anyone or anything else.
Of course not.
But they're calling this electioneering, and I guess I heard from somebody they're now going after loitering too. I thought with loitering they had to give you a warning.
Well, it's really funny. They put out a press release last week. Tim Griffin's office did, Letitia James' office. They put out, and they basically said it was electioneering, and they said it was exit polling. That's what they put out. Then today on the radio show, on the Dave Ellswick show, earlier today, he said that is a red herring. We never said that. It's not about electioneering, and it's not about exit polling. That's what he said. So you got two statements from Tim Griffin. Which one's true? The whole point. And he tries to fall back on the fact that he is in charge of his office. That he's also a National Guard colonel. And I don't want to disparage anybody who served in the military. I appreciate and respect their service, and always have. But he somehow is not the kind of officer that I grew up with. And I grew up with, you stand and your word is your bond, and you do the right thing, no matter if you got to fall on your sword or not. And if your people do something wrong, you take responsibility for it if they are in your command. I've been a brigade commander in Iraq, and I've been in Afghanistan. 5 years I've spent in Afghanistan. And so I understand exactly what leadership is, and this is not it. What he's doing is not it. He's trying to distance himself. He's trying to say, well, my office, I've have experienced investigators. They did this, and we had to, it was brought to us by the State Board of Election Commissioners, and he's doing everything to deflect that it's really not his decision. No, sir, it is. You made a decision. It's a political decision. So I don't know who above you told you to do it, but you followed through with it. You did something that is wrong. It is completely wrong. And he knows it. He knows it. But they do it.
Yeah.
They did it anyway because they got to have me out of the way. They got to. I'm the example, pretty much like Teeny Peters was. And bless her heart, we got to get her out of there. But I'm just saying. And my situation is not nearly as dire as hers. We got to get her out. She's already spent over a year in jail. But coming to mine, it's the same kind of thing. They've got to silence the people who are standing up, and they got to threaten us so that everybody else backs off. Well, I got news for them. I'm not backing off. They can forget that. I'm not backing off. I'm going to keep fighting just like President Trump did. Fight, fight, fight. And we are doing what President Trump wants us to do, and that is fix our election systems. And these people don't have any background in national security. They've got no idea what they're talking about. The election workers love the machines because they're convenient, they're fast, and nobody's held responsible. So I really don't blame them, but I do blame the elected leaders who should know more, who should take the time to do the research and do their due diligence, but they don't. Here in Arkansas, I brought Andrew Appel, the #1 computer science guy out of Princeton University, brilliant computer scientist. He's been fighting this battle for 20 years saying you can't use these machines. You've got to get rid of these machines because they can be manipulated. If you know anything about programming, if you know anything about how these are built and made, the computers inside, you can't use them. And I invited him here just before the vote up in Independence County, which was last November. I brought him here in October of last year. And I invited every one of our House sitting members, every one of our Senate members, every one of their staffs, and anybody else who wanted to come. Not one of them came. Not one of them came to listen to him, to what he had to say. Just to say, well, I don't believe you. Tell me why I'm wrong. They wouldn't even do that. So it tells you there's something bigger at play here. There's something going on in the background that basically is saying, if you go to paper ballots, if you're one of those who side with Colonel Reynolds, you are persona non grata from our little club, and we're going to make sure you're out. And they all are feeling it, and that's why they're doing that. But I'm telling you what, we're not going to fight. The people of Arkansas, the voice of Arkansans, are in fact going to do this, and I'm going to lead that effort. So we're trying.
Well, I mean, you're definitely doing the right thing. There's been a surge in support. I've seen articles and interviews about this up all over the place. People are upset. I want to touch on a couple different points that you made.
Okay.
And first of all, I want to say it always pisses me off when people try to hide behind their bad decisions by shielding themselves with their military service. It has nothing to do with the poor decisions this guy's made, choosing to move forward with this prosecution that now he's saying he knew nothing about, and he is trying to play hands off with. I mean, that's pathetic when people try to hide behind other things to shield themselves from the responsibility. But so the machines. So first of all, we already know these do not meet sizer requirements. These should not be used anywhere in the country. They have G3 or what is that 3G chips inside them, cell phone chips. So they're already not legal for use in elections. But we can ignore that fact because there's plenty of states doing that. But I want to go back to something else. You mentioned the Board of Elections. So this happened, 11 months ago? When did they decide to when did they remember that this happened? They decided to come forward with these charges.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting question, one that we won't know until we do discovery and find out exactly everything that they have, which that's all to be determined. But I will tell you, are you telling me 11 months? I think the timing's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, we filed to run for public office in November. So with this over my head, if you will, they don't want me running for office, obviously, for whatever office. I mean, whatever they thought I was going to run for. They want to make sure that they do the most political damage to me by putting this out. They were hoping to get a mugshot, probably. But I will tell you something. The county where this happened, which is Independence County, it's one of 75 counties here in Arkansas. I don't think they knew that, but that's where I grew up. I mean, that's where I went to junior high. That's where I went to high school.
Yeah.
It's really kind of funny because a lot of those people still there that knew me. And I can tell you the sheriff's office, I can't say enough good things about them. They were super polite, absolutely polite. They weren't about to do the things they would normally do in a booking. I didn't even have a mugshot. They said, no, we're not doing that. Because they understand what this is. And they really don't want to I think, is my opinion, they don't have any part of it. They don't want to have any part of it. And
I'm
they
sure.
see what it is. And it truly is punishment by process. They want to process me to make me feel bad. But what they didn't realize is that I've got the people on my side, not just here in Arkansas, but across the country. They didn't realize how this sets people off because they see what you're doing is unfair and it's wrong. And people are willing to come out and get off their couch when they see that. And that's what they've done. They sorely misjudged this. I mean, Tim Griffin is not a dumb guy politically. He's not a dumb guy. But he does equal Letitia James right now because the things that he's doing is exactly what she did up there. And so to me, somebody told him, you got to do this regardless. And he's doing it because he wants to be the governor of this state. In fact, on his radio program, the interview that he did earlier today, he was saying, your audience knows me. They know what kind of guy I am. I mean, he's kind of pleading and saying, well, I'm still a good guy. But he's not. And everybody knows he's not. Either that or he doesn't have the guts to stand up to the people telling him to do this. He doesn't have the guts. And so, therefore, that comes back to what I was talking about before. What makes a military officer? My brothers were military officers. Obviously, I still am. I'm still commissioned, for the rest of my life. That's why I go by colonel. And the fact of the matter is that he's supposed to be a colonel too. But the quality of officer, I guess, coming up under Obama is much different than the people that I was coming under Reagan. It's a much different person. And what he's doing now, people that in my generation will look at and say, how did he ever get promoted? At all. And so it's very disgusting for me, to be honest with you. I expected more from him. And so he's gonna live with this. He's gonna have the Letitia James banner all over his career for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
He is.
Well, yeah, because it's what he's saying today. Now, oh, this is really something that was handed into me. There was people under me doing it, whatever. If that was really what he thought, he would have pushed back before. This never would have got this far. It never would have come out last week that they were going to arrest you for this because he would have stood and done the right thing, got in the way of it. He would have exposed the malicious prosecution from the ground up if that's really what happened. But again, I have my doubts. I think he's being led around by a leash by somebody, like you said. He's being told to do this. Maybe he really doesn't believe it's the right move, but either way, he's going with it. He's going forward, and the buck stops with him. He's the top prosecutor in the state. There is nobody to blame but him for what's happening right now. And I think the only reason he appears to be maybe backing down a little bit right now is because of the pushback that I'm sure is near unified. I'm sure there's hardly anybody cheering for this prosecution in Arkansas or otherwise.
Well, I will just tell you this. He said, well, we went by the book, and it doesn't matter if it was Conrad Reynolds or any other name. He gave a couple of names. We would handle it the same way. Really, Tim? Well, if that's true, why is it that I'm the only one who have ever been charged with this? In the entire history of this law, I'm the only one ever to be charged with it. That's not true. He knows it's not true. And the people who like him, they have something to hang on to maybe, but everybody else who's paying attention sees it for what it is, and he's going to have to deal with this. It really makes me sick because maybe he's trying to distract from his own problems. Apparently, there's some ethics complaint against him. Him and another guy, a legislator by the name of David. We call him RICO Ray. David RICO Ray, because it looks like that RICO Ray has been on the payroll of Tim Griffin because he was his campaign manager, and according to the reports, he's been getting money for years, $500,000 or whatever it is, something like that. And at the same time, RICO Ray has been writing legislation to give more power to Tim Griffin's office. Why he's getting paid? So if that's true, I don't know that it is. I'm just telling you what this ethics complaint looks like, comes out against them. If that's true, they got some big problems. They got some questions to answer. And maybe he's trying to deflect that, thinking that going after me, he could deflect and people wouldn't pay attention. But I'm telling you, people are paying attention to it now.
Yeah, it sounds like that needs a special prosecutor. I wonder what that would cost. How much are they spending? We you and I talked off air about this and on another program previously. So ballpark, what's it going to cost to go after you for essentially, asking a few questions outside of polling locations after people had voted?
Well, I think that I've just got some estimates from people who should know. I don't know for sure. They said about 150,000. When you talk about all the money that goes into the investigation, and everything into the court, you're looking at least $150,000. Really? I mean, you got to think about that. Or that's how they want to spend the money. That's how they want to use the full force of the Attorney General's office to go after me. I mean, it's just crazy. Again, that's something that Letitia James does. She goes and spends that kind of money to go after Trump. He's exactly the same. There's no different. And I don't care how he wants to paint it. Everybody sees it. And so, and he's running for re-election, apparently. He's running for re-election for Attorney General for another 4 years. And his goal has always been to be governor. And he thought he was going to be governor but then Sarah Sanders came out of nowhere and had a lot of, she's very popular because people don't know her. They don't know what she's doing here in Arkansas. When I go outside the state, everybody goes, boy, from Arkansas, man, you got a great governor. I go, really? Well, let's talk about it a little bit. Have you studied any of the things that she has been doing? And from the FOIA Act, gutting the FOIA Act. I mean, we can go on and on and on. And so anyway, we're going to, all those things are going to be looked into. It may be a RICO case at some point here. I hope it is, to see why is it that at every step of the way, when we try to get paper ballots, whether it was a statewide referendum, whether it was at the county level with the quorum courts, now at the getting a Sydney ordinance to do it, they have put in laws immediately afterwards to make it impossible to do again. What Independence County did last year, by the way, most people don't know, it's the first county in the entire country that we know of anyway, that was actually able to vote on how they want their future elections to be, whether it's on machine or paper ballot. 63% said we want a paper ballot, and they can't stand that. And that should have been in every newspaper across the country. In Arkansas, nothing. None of the papers even mentioned it because they don't want other counties to know. And one of the reasons, if you think about it, it's an outlier. In other words, if you were going to manipulate the election, and this county now with hand-marked paper ballots that are hand-counted is different, significantly different than all the other counties, now there's a problem. And especially if they, so that's what we got.
Well, and you were able to get this across the finish line in one county. Which county was that again?
Well, it's Searcy County initially. They did in Searcy County, very small county. So we have two counties. One county that did paper ballot elections for the first time last year. They did the primary in November. And then in November, we had another county that actually voted on it. So in 2026, we'll have two counties that will actually be doing paper ballots. But Searcy County is a unique county. It's a very small county, about 5,000 voters. But they were being pressured tremendously not to the quorum court. Remember, I told you that other way of getting paper ballots. And then basically that is just the administrative body for the county. And if the majority of them vote for it, it's a paper ballot county. So they voted for it, and they got pressure big time. They were threatened. They said, we're not going to help you with any of your bridge grants, any road grants from federal money. They said, if you do that, we're going to come after you. We're going to primary every one of your JPs who are in there. And so, you know what they said? They were so great. They said, you know what? If we're getting this kind of pressure, there must be something wrong with the machines. There must be.
Yeah.
And so we're going to go to paper ballots. So they did it their own town hall. They did their own study, and it showed that they would be cheaper. It showed that it would be cheaper and faster. And they said, we're going to do it, when all the experts told them, you're going to bankrupt your county. You're not going to be able to do a hand count. And by the way, we're not going to help you do anything. We're not going to help you with your election. We're not going to help you figure out how to do hand-marked paper ballots. You're on your own. Go figure it out. So that's what they did to Little Searcy County, and they had 3 election commissioners, 2 Republican, 1 Democrat. They worked hard. The salt of the earth people, great people. They worked their tail off to make sure they had a good election. In the primary, they had a few minor problems. They could have done it, but but they did a great job. But it was just a minor problem. It didn't matter. It didn't affect the outcome of the vote. Is my point in the primary. But they got raked over the coals and said, if you make any mistakes in the general, we're coming after you. Fast forward to November last year. They did a perfect election. Guess what? They got 100% hand count on their audit. 100%. Not one mistake. They did everything right, and they did it cheaper. So they blew out the argument and the propaganda that was out there before. They blew that away. So then what did they do? What did the State Board of Election Commissioners do? They had to find something to get them on. So they said, where did you get, and they already knew it, they knew, where did you get these TVs and these cameras that were used to project the actual ballot so that all the citizens could see how you were counting? It's for transparency. Well, my organization rented it to them for $100 for the night, for every day that they had it, $100. Any other county that was paper ballots would have gotten the same deal, because we thought it's important for transparency. In my organization, avii.org, that's what we do. Our 501c4. We said, fine, we'll help you, and we did that. It wasn't a special deal at all. Do you know that that's what they used? That little part of that, they only paid $100. They said it was too little. You didn't pay enough. You should have paid more. And
Are you kidding me?
No. They said, because you didn't pay enough, we think there must be a quid pro quo, or there must be something nefarious going on. So because of that, we are going to ban you for 14 years, these 3 commissioners, for 14 years, so they can never participate again in any election. That's what they were doing to them. They said, if you sign this letter now, it'll go away. You're 14 years, you're gone, but that you want to pay a fine, you're done. But if you don't sign this, then we're going to come back and we'll have a hearing, and then we're going to come after you. Well, all 3 of them said, take that and shove it. We're not signing anything that's a lie. We did the right thing, and we're not going to back down. And so they went to the hearing, and man, there were so many people in that hearing that came, citizens who were angry. They had to back up on it. They saw the push from all the people. They backed up, and but they still gave them letters of reprimand instead of giving them. They should have given them an award. They got 100% accuracy. They did it cheaper. It was great, and so it
should be the gold standard.
You got to know that this is all led. How does all this tie back to Sarah Huckabee? It goes back to Sarah Huckabee Sanders, handpicked Secretary of State, co-jester. Because the Secretary of State who was there ran for another office, so there was a vacancy. She appointed Cole Jester to be there. He is the guy that runs that, and the State Board of Election Commissioners. He runs that. And so their goal was to go and get these people, get these 3 commissioners, and punish them. They berated them. This is wrong. This was wrong on all levels, because I'm telling you, if you met them, you would love them. I mean, President Trump would love them. They're MAGA people. They love it. Even the Democrat, I love him. I mean, he's a great guy. He's a fair, honest person. And they just want fair elections for their county. But what did they get? They got punishment. And that's what they weren't trying to send a signal to every other election commissioner. You do this, you're going to get the same treatment. And that is wrong. And that's why we've got to fight this tooth and nail. And that's why people outside of Arkansas need to know what Sarah Huckabee Sanders is doing and allowing to happen. They need to know that. And they also need to know that she's not standing up for any of them. She never stood up for any of them. She's certainly not going to stand up for me in my situation at all. Yeah. Okay, because they want it. They want us to get punished so that people will abandon the paper ballot initiative and go back to the machines. That's what they want.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what this is all about, is about sending a message. It's about saying, this is what's going to happen to you too in your county. If you go this way, you get rid of the machines and you go back to hand-counted, hand-marked paper ballots. And again, like, this should be the gold standard. The part of the whole sales pitch on the machines was, it's going to be more accurate. It was going to save you money. It was going to be less work. You weren't going to need as many volunteers. And as we're seeing in every state across the country, none of that is true. They're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars getting these machines reprogrammed, if not more, in some of the larger counties every single year. It's not saving time. Well, it's 2020. Aside from what happened in Florida in 2000, that's the only time I can remember in recent memory where we've got to wait days to know who won an election, and that was all in states that were using these machines. So the hand counted paper ballots were clearly better to begin with. It's time to admit we've made a mistake going to these machines, but this county should be the gold standard. They saved money. They had 100% accuracy. And that's what people want. People trust the system. People do not trust these black box machines where nobody knows what's going on in the inside. If their vote's getting flipped, and when there's no receipt or paper trail or anything that you can audit, you cannot trust the results. Bottom line.
Well, as a national security expert, and this is what I do for a living, okay, I will tell you, you can never assure that these machines are counting properly. They try to confuse the average voter. They go, well, they all have paper machines. The EAC came out after President Trump did the executive order, and he said, we're going to go to paper ballots. We're going to hand mark. Well, guess what? They go, well, guess what? We've already got paper ballots in 98% of all the states. 98%. We've already got paper ballots. So, we're already ahead. Just a couple of states left. It's absolutely ridiculous. I'm telling you, if you really understood how this thing works, how the EAC plays into it, the kabuki dance that they do with the quote certification of these machines, it's a joke. It's a joke. I know people who've worked in those certification areas. We've interviewed them. It's a joke. And this whole thing about and I got to say this because they'll come up and say, oh, Heritage said we're the number one. We're number one in the country, okay, for national security, for secure elections. That's what Sarah Huckabee put out the other day. That's what Co-Gesture. They had a whole big, in June, they had a conference where they announced it on TV. Here's the problem. The problem is that means nothing. I mean, Heritage is a great name, but as far as a conservative organization, but this particular scorecard that they use have nothing to do with cybersecurity. It's ridiculous. No. And I'll give you an example of how wonderful this system is. Do you know after 2020, do you know who the number one in 2021, who the number one state was for election security integrity?
No.
Georgia.
No.
Georgia. Huh.
You got to be kidding me.
Georgia. That's who they put as number one. So if that doesn't tell you that this scorecard means nothing, they're still in the top 5 today, and they haven't fixed one of their machines, not one. They've done none of the patches, so it's crazy. So one of the things that I want you your readers to know about is a book called Stolen Elections, Stolen Election by Ralph Pizzullo. It just came out. It's just came out. You can get it on Amazon. It is a great book. Because I know the two people who are featured in that book who've done 4 years of investigation. And what they've done is they've gone all the way back to the very, very beginning of it goes back to Nicaragua, the very beginning of how they started manipulating the machines for Chavez. And the DNA of that code that was written is pretty much in the DNA in all the other machines and other companies. And a lot of these Venezuelans who were working that have found their ways working in these companies now, today. So the idea that these things are safe is ridiculous, and people need to understand that. And that's why, guess what? Taiwan uses paper ballots. That's why most of Europe uses paper ballots. They don't use machines. They know they can be manipulated. But here in America, they have captured these state legislatures. That's why we don't have anybody in our state legislature here in Arkansas who is for paper ballots, and not one person who will stand up and say, I'm for paper ballots. I want to get rid of these machines. No, none of them will. And so it's a shame. And so we got to do it at the national level. We got to do it at the federal level. And President Trump has to do this, and he knows that. Of course, he's got a gazillion other things on his plate. But we've got to get it before the primary. We've got to get it before our primaries, and that is what's key. So all your listeners, call your state senators, call your congressmen, tell them we want this. We want to get rid of these machines. We can do it, but there's got to be a voice from the people, and you got to be vocal and speak out.
Exactly. Yeah, this has to be taken care of soon. Like you said, we have to have honest primaries. We can't have all these undocumented Democrats, rhinos, whatever you want to call them, inserted into our races, and it better be taken care of before 2026. Because I have a feeling the way things are trending right now, it's going to be a bloodbath for Democrats. We are probably picking up somewhere between 40 and 80 seats, in my opinion, especially if this Supreme Court ruling on race-based districts goes away. It's going to be a massacre.
Yeah, the problem is we've got to get the right Republicans. We got to get real Republicans. Okay, that's the key, and you can only do that in primaries. In your solid red states, it's the primary that matters, not the general. It's the primary because we're a 70-30 state roughly. So whoever wins the primary is going to be the next senator, going to be the next congressman. You got to get because remember back in 2017 and 18 we had the House, we had the Senate, and we had the presidency, right? And we couldn't even get the money to build the wall. We couldn't get a balanced budget amendment. We couldn't get the things that we really needed. We couldn't get that. We couldn't get rid of the machines. Okay, so we got to get the right people in there to carry the America First agenda from President Trump. We can do that, but we've only got one shot at it, folks. That's it. And the shot is this coming year. And like in Arkansas, we're one of the first primaries. Our primary, I think, is in March 3rd. Early voting starts sometime in February. So here very shortly, I mean, in the next 30 days to 45 days, the president, the White House has got to come up with something right now to say, put all these states on notice. You can't use these machines in our federal elections. You cannot do it. And if they do that, if they were able to do that, which I think that they can, if they're able to do that, then every county that in every state will have the opportunity to quickly get ready for a paper ballot election. And that's what has to happen. And I'm going to tell you something. When you do that, half of these rhinos are going to be gone because they cannot win. Or they cannot win if it is a fair election. And Democrats, we'll get rid of we'll get good people in. So that's what's important here.
Yeah, well, you're exactly right. The uniparty, the deep state, the military industrial complex, whatever you want to call them, these people are already on their heels right now. They're watching over their shoulders. They're worried about what they see happening, but it's time to put them in their grave once and for all. And the only way we're going to do that is with real, honest, free, fair elections with hand-counted paper ballots. End of story. Colonel Reynolds, any words of wisdom you'd like to leave our audience with here? And what's the best place that they can follow you and follow what's happening to you and follow the fight for paper ballots nationwide?
Well, I'm going to tell you, we're going to fight in the words of President Trump. I believe in that. I think it's 100. This is the time. You cannot wait. This is our time, and we must do that. You can go to my website, avii.org, avii.org. You can follow me at Colonel Reynolds on X.
You guys, make sure you're following Colonel Reynolds over there. Follow his story. Tell your friends. Again, it's going to be up to us. We are the media. It's up to us to get the word out. Guys, I want to thank Dr. Jamie Glazov for allowing me to sit in and host for him here tonight on the Glazov Gang. To the audience, thank you for watching. Again, this is a fan-generated program, and I would like to strongly encourage you guys to go to jamieglazov.com, make a contribution so that Jamie, myself, anyone else that you see over here, and all our wonderful guests are able to keep bringing you the news the mainstream media don't want you to hear. Thank you again for joining us tonight, and we'll be back soon with even more.